Have you ever wondered why you've breathed perfectly well your entire life, yet the moment you step into a swimming pool, your breath suddenly turns against you? There's something very interesting I've noticed while talking with many people over the age of 60. They're not afraid of water in the way most people assume. They're not afraid of drowning. They simply don't understand why their body suddenly stops listening to them once they're in the water. Throughout your life, you've taken millions of breaths. You've breathed to live, to work, to raise a family, to get through years that were anything but easy. And yet, when learning to swim, one thing that seems so simple, breathing, becomes the biggest obstacle of all. If you've ever felt that way, leave a comment saying, "I've been there," below. I want you to know this: you are not alone. When I talk with older adults about swimming, I often hear the same sentence again and again. "I breathe just fine on land, but everything falls apart in the water." It sounds simple on the surface, but behind it lies a misunderstanding that can last for years. A misunderstanding that leads many people to believe they're not meant for water, or that they're too old to learn how to swim. The truth is, the problem isn't your age, and it certainly isn't your lungs. People over 60 often carry a very strong belief. Breathing is instinctive. It's the most natural thing a human being does. Because of that, they assume that bringing this instinct into the water should be enough. But water is not air. And our bodies, especially bodies that have lived through many decades, understand this far better than we realize. Many people make their first mistake at the level of thinking, believing that breathing underwater is the same as breathing on land. On land, you inhale and exhale without a second thought. In the water, you try to do exactly the same thing. But after just a few seconds, your throat tightens, your chest feels heavy, and your breathing rhythm falls apart. Some people think they didn't inhale deeply enough, so they take a huge breath before putting their face in the water. Others believe that if they just get in the water more often, they'll eventually get used to it. And some listen to advice from younger people, people with more flexible bodies and quicker reflexes, then blame themselves for not being able to do the same. What few people tell you is this: someone over 60 cannot learn to swim the same way someone in their 20s or 30s does. Not because they're worse, but because their body and brain have changed. When you step into the water, three things happen at once. Water pressure presses directly against your chest, making lung expansion less effortless than it is on land. Water temperature is usually lower than body temperature. Even a small difference is enough to put the nervous system on alert. And most importantly, the brain activates a very ancient mechanism: the survival response. Physiological research shows that when the face comes into contact with water, especially around the nose and mouth, the brain prioritizes staying safe over optimizing breathing. In younger people, this reflex adjusts quickly. In older adults, it's stronger, more persistent, and harder to override. That's why you can't breathe, even though you know how to breathe. Not because you forgot the technique, but because your body is trying to protect you. Something most people don't realize is the difference between active breathing and passive breathing. On land, you're in control. You decide when to inhale and when to exhale. You're fully in charge. In the water, you're forced to give up part of that control to your surroundings. And for someone who has lived more than half a lifetime, letting go of control is not easy. We're used to being in charge of our lives, our families, our work, every decision we make. When we enter the water, the body suddenly asks us to trust something we can't see, aren't used to, and can't fully control. The brain doesn't like that. So it responds by tightening your breath. If you've ever felt the urge to lift your head immediately after putting your face in the water, or found yourself exhaling too fast or too sharply, or noticed your heart racing before you've even swum a single yard, please understand, that's not weakness. It's a signal that your brain doesn't trust the water yet. At this moment, if you're nodding along and seeing yourself in these words, leave a comment saying "okay" below. Just one word. So I know you're here and that you're listening to your own body. So what's the solution? For people over 60, the solution isn't breathing harder, longer, or more correctly. The solution is retraining the sense of safety. Rehabilitation specialists and psychophysiology experts agree on this. Before teaching the lungs how to breathe, you must teach the brain how to feel safe. What does that mean? It means you don't need to rush to put your face in the water. You don't need to count breaths. You don't need to force yourself to endure discomfort with the hope that you'll get used to it. Instead, allow the water to meet you slowly. Let your face touch the water while you're still in a position you can control. Exhale gently, slowly, without effort. Exhale the way you sigh after a long, exhausting day. The brain is very sensitive to this signal. It understands. This person is relaxed. There is no danger. Many studies show that prolonged exhalation activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the system responsible for relaxation and stress reduction. For older adults, this is especially important. When this system is activated, the breath-holding reflex gradually weakens. There's a quiet truth few people talk about. People over 60 often learn to swim more slowly at first, but once they overcome the fear of breathing in water, they become far more stable. They don't swim fast, but they swim steadily. They don't force it, but they let go. And they experience the water in a deeply personal way. Many people who learn to breathe comfortably in the water say they sleep better, feel less anxious, and notice a lighter, calmer body. At that point, swimming is no longer just a skill. It becomes a form of moving meditation where breath, body, and mind come together. Perhaps the issue was never that you didn't know how to breathe, but that no one ever taught you how to trust that the water can support you too. If you remember one thing from this video, remember that. Age doesn't take away your ability to learn. It simply asks for a different path, slower, deeper, and more humane. Struggling to breathe in the water is not failure. It's simply a sign that your body needs to be listened to, not forced. If this video gave you a new perspective, consider subscribing to Vital Health Hub. Here, we share small but meaningful insights to help you live healthier, live deeper, and live with greater ease every day. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.